Hey, welcome to my vlog and review for round 10 of the 2017 MotoGP season, the Brno Automotodrome in the gorgeous Czech Republic. It was yet another crazy weather-filled weekend that ended up in a flag-to-flag race day, so let's see how fast these kids can get up to speed after a whole month off playing hooky in the sunshine. One of the first things to happen over the race weekend was Jorge Lorenzo and Ducati finally revealing their new aerodynamic styled fairing designed to replace the winglets that were banned at the beginning of the 2017 season. Gigi Dall'Igno and Ducati hoping to give Jorge back a little bit of that front end feel that allows him to be fast and smooth in the middle of the corner. And while their previous design looked a little bit like a hammerhead shark, this design actually looks a little bit more like a whale shark. I'm not sure what Ducati's obsession with sharks is, but I do know if they keep this up, Discovery Channel is going to have to feature them on their next episode of Shark Week. There was also a bit of a red flag situation during free practice 3 after Bautista's bike seemed to be puffing out a little bit of oily mist, sending him off track and into the gravel trap. Fortunately for Rossi, who was right behind him, he had a bit more of an inside line and made it through the corner unscathed. Unfortunately for both Marquez and Crutchlow, they got caught up in the oily mist and it sent them tumbling into the gravel trap unexpectedly. Fortunately, both riders okay, although Crutchlow was a little banged up and had to go see the doctor. Luckily, the doctor gave number 35 a clean bill of health and a lollipop, and he was able to join in for both qualifying and the race day. Rossi in race direction, red flagging the practice session quickly, going out and checking the track for any oil, as well as replacing the broken air fence, and with a little hard work by the track crew, the free practice session was back up and running pretty quickly. There was also more unexpected action during the flag-to-flag portion of the race when Aleix Espargaro's pit crew gave him an early release for good behavior. He ended up wiping out Iannone, and although both riders were okay, Aleix eventually had to drop back 3 spots in response to the incident. Getting back to our top 6 finishers, P1, Marc Marquez. After saving this near crash during free practice 2 at turn 13, Marquez goes on to win the Brno race. Marquez made a last-minute tire change on the grid, dropping down to the soft wet tire, thinking initially that it could last him up to 5 laps during the race. He quickly realized that that wasn't going to be the case as he dropped from first down to about 7th on the first lap, being forced to take a gamble and pit early. He ended up going back out on a still wet track on slick tires, saying after the race that he almost crashed a number of times on those first few laps. But like every great champion, Marquez turns his tragedy into triumph. He ends up winning the race, leading by almost 20 seconds for most part of the race. Marquez ends up coming out of the Brno race 15 points ahead of Vinales in second and extends his lead in the championship. P2, Dani Pedrosa. Despite having this small crash during free practice 3, Pedrosa had an overall good weekend and he ended up qualifying 3rd on the grid. Unlike his teammate Marquez, Pedrosa stayed out there for the first number of laps before coming in to change over to his dry bike, and then he quickly found himself in second place where he remained unchallenged for the rest of the race. And with this second place finish, Pedrosa finds himself clinging on to his championship hopes, now 31 points behind Marquez in the lead and at 5th place in the championship. P3, Maverick Vinales. Vinales had a little bit less of a successful weekend overall and ended up qualifying down in 7th, first spot on the 3rd row of the grid behind all the other championship hopefuls. And after the bike swap, Vinales found himself all the way down in 13th place. He had to spend the middle part of the race fighting his way back from 13th all the way up into 3rd place. Luckily for Vinales, he was able to hold on to that last step of the podium and maintain his 2nd place in the championship, and now sits 14 points behind Marquez. I'm sure Vinales wasn't very happy about this Brno weekend, and I'm sure that he's going to be working hard to make sure that the next race in Austria is going to be much more successful. P4, Valentino Rossi. It seemed like at the beginning of this race, Rossi was in really good shape. He'd qualified 2nd right behind Marquez, and when Marquez started having tire troubles, it seemed like it was going to be Rossi's race to lose. Unfortunately, fate is a cruel mistress, and Rossi ended up staying out there a little bit too long like he's done in the past. When he came back out on the track after the bike change, he was way down in 14th place and literally spent the entire rest of the race fighting his way back, eventually passing Cal Crutchlow on the very last lap for this 4th place finish. And like I've said in the past, this isn't the first time that Rossi's had this issue. I guess it's hard to pit when you're leading the race, but I think the teams need to come up with 2 separate box calls. One that maybe just says box once, meaning that the rider has the option to box, and a second call maybe saying box, box, box 3 times, telling the rider that they need to box, that there's something they don't know. Maybe this is all inconsequential because I believe in 2018 they're going to be going to an onboard communication system. Either way, even with that technology, the teams need to come up with 2 separate box calls, one telling the rider they have the option to box, and one telling the rider that they need to box. Either way, Rossi comes out of this still in 4th place in the championship, only 22 points behind Marquez and 1 point behind Dovizioso. It might not have been the best race finish, but it was a well-earned 4th place for the doctor that keeps him in championship contention. P5, Cal Crutchlow. Crutchlow almost had that 4th place finish until Rossi pulled the rug out from underneath him on the last lap. Crutchlow was lucky to be in this race at all after that free practice 3 crash in the Bautista oil incident. Originally, Crutchlow was shipped off to the hospital for a checkup, and then right before the qualifying session, they realized that they forgot to do a particular test. Luckily, Crutchlow made it through qualifying without incident in 5th place, and then he was shipped back to the hospital that night for an additional checkup. They gave him a clean bill of health, and he was able to race on Sunday, ultimately getting this 5th place, which ties him with Petrucci for 3rd place in the Independent Championship, now only 13 points behind Zarco in the lead. It looks like this Independent Championship is going to be just as tight and go down to the wire, just like the main championship is. Either way, as much as Crutchlow would have liked to finish in that 4th place, you gotta say it was a great weekend for the Brit, and I'm sure he's going to be looking to improve moving forward. P6, Andre Dovizioso. Number 4 originally qualified up in 4th place, but after all the flag-to-flag mayhem, he ends up finishing the race down in 6th. He battled with Petrucci in the last part of the race and ended up beating him by less than a second. Most importantly for Dovizioso, he holds on to that 3rd place in the championship, now 21 points behind Marquez, but only 1 point ahead of Rossi. Ducati wanted a championship contender, and they've got one. It's just maybe not who they thought it was going to be. Either way, Dovizioso is going to be looking to improve at the Austria Red Bull Ring. So that wraps up my vlog and review for round 10 of the 2017 MotoGP season. Marquez, Vinales, Dovizioso, and Rossi still within 22 points of each other. Unbelievable. Don't forget the next race, August 13 at the Red Bull Ring in Austria. Leave me a comment, leave me a like, let me know what you think, and let's look forward to more MotoGP.